Taking on the role of Lex Luthor, it's Nicholas Holt. She's your Lois Lane, it's Rachel Brosnahan. Clark Kent and Superman, it's David Corenswet. And last but by no means least, co-chair and co-CEO of DC Studios, writer, director and producer of Superman, James Gunn. Indeed.
You're doing okay, Rachel.
Thank you very much.
We all had a big discussion backstage about what Rachel's dress was going to do when she sat
Whether or
down.
not I can sit.
You've never sat down in the dress.
Never tried it. Turns out it's okay.
Yeah.
So far.
I'm afraid it's going to be a
Sigh of relief with me.
different type of show for the folks in London.
You're doing amazing, sweetie. To quote Chris. Okay, James, going to start with you. You're going to start with the obvious. What does it feel like bringing Superman back to the gigantic screen for this new generation?
I mean, good.
Give me more adjectives. Let's go for it. Let's go for the full thesaurus.
It's, I mean, listen, it's challenging, you know, because you're taking probably one of the 5 most iconic characters in popular culture of all time and trying to create him for a modern day audience. And, you know, I think the sort of tool that I was armed with that helped me is that I'm a huge Superman fan. So because I'm a fan, I think I had a basic understanding of what at least I thought was essential to the character. And then places that we could, you know, change things up a little bit and make it fun and do some unexpected things for the audience. But the main thing I wanted to do was to allow people to really get to know Superman, to know him on a deeper level, to see what his beliefs were, to see what his flaws were, to see, you know, what his relationship was like, and see what his relationship to the government was like. And yeah, it was a lot of fun doing that.
I think the great thing about watching you outside actually with the fans is that you sincerely care, you sincerely want to be there. You're so invested in what it is to be a comic book fan, aren't you? And a fan of this franchise.
Listen, you know, there's something that I share with all of the guys that I work with that I admire the most, that we're incredibly appreciative to the fan. Like, we do not have a career without the fans. And I was a fan growing up. There's a kid outside I was talking to, I don't even know if he's in here, but he was, you know, told me that, you know, some really nice things about myself. He got moved, and that moved me, and I said, that's what I felt like when I met Stan Lee. You know, Stan Lee was so nice to me. He was so good to me. And inside, on the outside, I was kind of composed. On the inside, I felt like a 13-year-old girl at a Beatles concert in 1967. You know, so it's important, and I think it's important that, you know, people look up to treat everyone with respect. It's the first thing I said to David when he came on board. I'm like, we can't, you know, there's no assholes here. It's really just, it's got to be somebody, you got to treat everybody with kindness. And I think playing Superman, it's even doubly true.
This is it. And I wanted to ask David, Rachel, Nicholas, you know, when it comes to creating your own versions of these characters, what challenges, if at all, did you find, you know, doing that, and what joy did you find in creating these new versions of these characters? Because, you know, I guess to most people, they're thinking of Christopher, they're thinking of Margot, they're thinking of Jean. So how did you go about finding your truth, I guess, in those characters? I'll start with you, David, no pressure.
Well, first in the script that James wrote, which was incredibly surprising to me, original, a huge, fantastical world in the first 10 pages, just things that I didn't know existed in Superman's universe. So I was immediately surprised. I immediately saw a different world relating to those elements, as Superman was going to feel different. I think the thing that surprised me was I came in with some ideas about who Superman is and his stoicism and his steadfastness. And it's not that those things didn't become a part of our version of the character, but James sort of kept pushing me gently, and sometimes not so gently, back towards my first instincts, not so much as an actor, but as a person. When you take on a role, you generally don't want to start with your first instincts because you can end up playing yourself more than you're playing the character. You want to find the character, you want to find the ways that they're different from you. And James just sort of kept guiding me back towards what I felt like were my first instincts. So in the end, I found that my version of Superman was more like me than I expected him to be, which made it so much more fun to play, and now makes it so much more fun to share with you all. I feel so much more connected to the character than I expected to, and to see that reflected back in people's appreciation and joy and excitement is really wonderful.
And I guess the signs are there really, because we think of him as as a superhero, but essentially he is superhuman, isn't he? He's the best parts of us, Superman, I would think.
Yeah, and he also appreciates, as a character, he appreciates most about himself the human things, much more than his strength and his ability to fly. He loves the parts of himself that love and care and have fun with people and have fun being with people.
Yeah, the Kents raised him well. So
Yes, indeed.
So Rachel, when it comes to Lois, I mean, she's such a fantastic character for all genders, but I think particularly for young women, she is one of those characters in the comic book that, as a woman, you're like, oh my god, yes, this is so exciting to see. Like, she's not weak, and she speaks up for herself, and she's strong. So how fun was it for you to kind of get into those layers of her on screen?
Oh, it was a blast. I mean, Lois Lane has always done loud girls proud, and it was fun to get to fill the shoes. And one of the things I appreciated about James's script is that he made room for a bunch of different sides of her that exist in different versions of the comics, but are rarely balanced so skillfully. You get to see her as every bit the intrepid journalist that she always has been, somebody who throws herself into the center of the action, anything in pursuit of truth and justice. But James also recognizes in the script that sometimes that means that you might need saving, and it doesn't make you any less strong, which I think is a really important message. And then you also get to see this side of her that no matter how capable she is, no matter how logical she is sort of knocked off balance when she's met her match.
You bet your ass.
And Superman, yeah, knocked off balance indeed.
That's actually an interesting point you raise, isn't it? Because I think this film shows us it's okay to ask for help, even if you are the Man of Steel, or even if you are, independent women like Lois Lane. And then we come to our villain. But so far, because I guess when it comes to superheroes, we all kind of get an immediate sense of why they do what they do. There's often the quest for doing the right thing. When it comes to the bad guy, we often don't get to find out why they are how they are straight away. So what was it about Lex in this version of him that you wanted to get across the sort of why of him?
Well, he was wonderful on the page, and what James was investigating with the character, and the dialogue was really dynamic and made me laugh. And I was like, oh, I'm going to have fun playing this character. And normally if I'm having fun, then sometimes that equates to when people see the film, like enjoying the performance in a roundabout way. So it was a lot of that, and then it's kind of taking what's on the page and then going back and researching and preparing and trying to find other little tidbits of information or things that you can just add, even if it doesn't come through on screen, but add in the back of your mind to kind of give you a sense of the emotion and the truth of what you're trying to portray. And being evil. Evil! And hating David, that was a challenge.
Let's talk about that, shall we?
Oh, I wanted to hate him. And I couldn't find anything to hate.
Because how do you go?
I've got a list.
He's got a weekly newsletter he sends out every week.
But I'm intrigued actually about how you guys went about, I guess, creating, your on-screen chemistry as, lovers, colleagues, and as, adversaries. Yeah, I mean, hey, who's to say? I'm sure there's.
Don't spoil the ending.
I'm sure there's fan fiction about Lex and Superman somewhere. I'm sure there is, and I'm sure you probably read
Leave that alone. One of my best friends was on Smallville. He saw all that stuff. He was proud of it.
Hey. Superman is for the lovers. But yeah, how did you go about, I guess, creating that on-screen chemistry as rivals and as you two as work partners and as romantic interests?
Well, for my half, I had admired Nick as an actor for a long time. I remember the moment when I found out from James that he had agreed to play Lex Luthor, and I remember thinking this may be the best thing that happens to this film. Not just because, you know, a superhero is only as interesting as their villain, but because I knew of Nick as being the kind of actor who could bring depth and nuance and humor to a role like this. And then for my part, once we were shooting, I tried desperately to sort of be a match for him, to look at him eye to eye, which is tough when you've got lifts in your shoes. No, but when we were doing our scene work, it was so much fun trying to one-up him as a scene partner, as a character, you know, facing off with him, and I just never felt like I could. He always had a way of coming back, or a sort of a parry to my thrust. It's fencing terms. That's really, but it was so. I had such a sort of a giddy appreciation for the fact that he could do it. I'm a pretty formidable scene partner, I would say, and I never got one up on him, which was I was very impressed with and appreciative of.
Well, that's what you want, isn't it? And Rachel, you mentioned the beauty of James's writing, and you know we get to see in this film, which you guys will see, it's not a spoiler. And there's an immediate shorthand with Lois and Clark's relationship, because you know in TV series previously, in the films previously, it's been eked out, but we immediately know that she knows all about him. How fun was that for you to play against David, having that shorthand?
It was so much fun because we got to pretend, as I think you've seen, that we didn't know in the Daily Planet, and then you get that really fun reveal. But I mean, it was a nice excuse which James gave us to be able to deepen this relationship. As I said, they've met their match in each other, and it's really fun and funny sometimes to put two fiercely competitive, passionate people in a room together and see what happens. Sparks fly in all kinds of ways, and it was really fun to build. And those were actually, that scene was shot over our first 2 days of shooting in Los Angeles, in Atlanta. Woo! And so we had the time and the space to find this relationship, to try a lot of different things, and then take that foundation underneath us into the rest of shooting.
Well, it definitely comes across. Now, Peter and James, you guys have obviously got a great shorthand with each other. You've been friends for almost 30 years now. You've known each other.
James was 5. James was 5.
Exactly.
James was 5 when we
There we go. You're about wee babies. You've known each other for a long time, so you've obviously got this great shorthand. When it came to putting this film together, and you know, thinking of these three roles and how they were to be filmed, how did you go about, you know, the casting process? Because that's a big deal. Because once these characters are out there, that you are setting the law. You know.
You know, James was always very clear that we were going to audition for these roles. We wanted somebody who was going to be a volunteer and not a recruit to the process, somebody that wanted it enough to come in and read and go through the process with us. And, you know, these two were extraordinary. Not you. These two were extraordinary. They were really extraordinary together, and they both raised each other's game. They were both individually amazing, but together they were really, really special. And, you know, when Nick agreed to be Lex, we just knew that we had the fierceness threesome that we could possibly have for this movie.
Wow. Joe, I love the closeness of this crew. I can really feel it. It's a beautiful thing.
I remember, you know, when, I mean, it's no secret, but, you know, Nick auditioned for Superman, and I just was like, oh my God, he's so good. He's such a good actor. He's so much better than David Corns. No. But he doesn't seem like Superman. You know, and it's like sometimes, you know, I think there's a common belief in, you know, by the public that the best actor gets a role. And David's an amazing actor. Like, that's why he was able to do this role. But Nick was just so amazing, and I just kept watching him, you know, because we screen tested. He was on the monitors, and I just kept watching him, and I just kept putting my finger above his hairline and going, oh my God, this is a gigantic opportunity. He's like, Lex is kind of my favorite. I mean, I love Lex in the movie. And so when, you know, we finished there, I called up Nick, who auditioned for Superman, but did not audition for Lex, and said, would you please, you know, be Lex Luthor? And that really, him coming in and doing that, that's when the whole thing came together. It really is. There's a dynamic between the three of them in and out that's like, you know, really.
But to Nick's credit, Nick, to your credit, when I was talking to his agent, called me and said, when Nick first read the script, when we said we wanted to test him for Superman, Nick called his agent and he said, God, the Lex Luthor role is great. And the agent said, shut the fuck up, you're going in for Superman. So he always thought in his mind that Lex was the role.
But what was meant to be was meant to be, and here we are now. Now, we've got to talk about Easter eggs, because everybody loves an Easter egg. Without spoiling it too much, what can fans possibly expect from the movie when it comes out July 11th? Are there any things in particular people should...
I mean, this is the most Easter egg-laden movie I've ever made. I have a lot of Easter eggs in my movie. I mean, every character in the movie is practically from the comic books. Everybody in Lex's control room, all those people are characters from the comic books. They're all named after those characters. Every street in the movie is named after a comic book writer or artist. Most of the businesses are either named after a comic book writer or artist, or they are named after businesses that exist within the DC universe on the page. Later on, there's an iconic scene with a huge mural in the background that tells you the story of metahumans in the DCU. And that's going to be really fun when we release those images to the public. So the stuff goes deep. It's really fun. And it was really fun creating a world. That was one of the reasons why I like DC a lot, is because it isn't New York and Los Angeles. It's Gotham and Central City and Evergreen. And there are all these... It is really creating another world with other rules and other things that are common.
And can you talk to us more about just the research that kind of goes into that, just to make sure that everything meticulously is on point? Because as you know, people are very enthusiastic about this franchise, very enthusiastic about these characters, and they notice things. So can you tell us more about just researching?
I mean, first of all, I started researching when I was, 3 and 4 years old, when I first started reading Superman comic books. So I've been researching my whole entire life for this film and for working at DC. I've always loved DC Comics. And hi. In addition to that, I went back and I just read a lot of my, favorite Superman comics from over the years, and they invigorated me and gave me little ideas of things I could do. And really, in the case of some of them, like All-Star Superman by Grant Morrison and Frank Whiteley and Jamie Grant, that really inspired the look of the whole movie. Yeah.
Peter, can you tell us more about just certain scenes that were the most, challenging, most exciting to produce? Because, this film is very, very, very ambitious when it comes to special effects and physicality of the actors. Can you tell us a bit more about that? Some of your standout scenes?
Yeah, without spoiling, because it's a scene that has not been shown yet, but the first time that I saw David as Superman fly, incredible. It really wasn't good. Everybody on set was in a big soundstage in Atlanta, and he breaks through something and launches. Gets launched on wires across the stage, and I was like, that is Superman. That's unbelievable. And I knew that every kid that sees this movie, he's going to be their Superman. He's this generation.
Did you see the first take of that shot? Did you see the first take of it?
No, I saw the first one where he flew.
The first shot of where he flew, we squashed his testicle.
Oh no, I was not going to mention that. I was trying to make it sound heroic. And
all I know is that
I was debased the entire memory.
I was sitting there, and he's very formal, so he's flying out of this thing, and all of a sudden his body starts to do a spin that it wasn't supposed to do, and I hear David yell in pain, "My testicle!"
David, please, take us back to that day.
To his credit, that was the line. That was the line you'd written for him, though.
No, that was him.
Quit while we're ahead.
It's a safe space. If you want to share more, that's great. If not, that's okay.
I told you that story in confidence. Just now.
He did. He told me that. He reminded me of that story just outside that door about 2 seconds ago.
Shame on me.
He's like, remember this? I'm like, David, I'm going to use that.
Well, the question she asked was, were there any sequences that were difficult to produce? And you're going to talk about me squashing my testicle? How about going to Norway, going to the Arctic? Where did that come from?
Please.
Arctic?
Yeah.
That was easy.
I'll tell you
For
what.
us, David was the only one lying out in the snow in the minus 15-degree weather. It was fine for us producing.
Yeah, but, well, your stunt double, Eddie, got really, he
Bless
was
him.
really good. He had to be dry. So the scene where, so like something people don't know about this movie is that all the flying, almost all of the flying in the movie is totally David. Like, there are very few shots that are digital doubles. It is almost always David. We put things on, we have drones in the studio flying around him. We put Henry Bram and Chris McGuire, our camera operators, on wires, and they're flying around him because we wanted to shoot, flyers in the way that maybe one jet fighter would shoot another jet fighter, but being able to get close. And so all this stuff with David flying in the movie is actually David. Where was I going with this?
Eddie being dragged through the snow.
Oh, Eddie. So we actually dragged, both David through the snow, and he got, the first part of it, and then we had these wide shots in which it was not, a dog, it was a snowmobile dragging Eddie, our stunt double, through the snow. And I love stunt guys, I really do, but one of their issues is they will never complain. They will never say when they're being hurt. It's actually an issue, and I try to tell the stunt guys at the beginning, if you're hurting or something's going wrong, and Eddie didn't say anything, and I saw him that night, and his whole face was like swollen up and beaten up, and all
I
messed
think
up.
they kind of enjoy it.
He
They wear it as a badge of honor.
Give him bragging
Yeah.
rights, but still.
Well, on the subject of physicality, actors, very intrigued to learn more about your choices when it comes to, again, making these characters your own, but just physically. Because like Nicholas with you, I noticed like every time Lex speaks, it's very much like he's not a big gesticulator, is he? Like, it's all very like closed through the mouth and it's quite uptight. Was that a purposeful choice?
No.
Just something you did? Well, it came
Probably just me trying to do an American accent.
But then, I kind of perceive that as Lex is just sort of like his frustration with life and not being a very expressive guy, but that's just you being a great actor casually.
It wasn't a conscious thing. I think
Right.
one of the brilliant things that happened early on in this was after some rehearsals, James and I went and had a discussion, and then we went and rehearsed alone, just me and him, a few scenes, and James really, that made me really trust him as a director, first of all, because he was giving honest feedback and he was explaining exactly what he needed from me in this film. And then that was just like creating an energy for the character, I suppose, that then I tried to harness through the film. And one of the other brilliant things that, All-Star Superman was a big inspiration, and there's a part of that where Lex is like, Clark goes to interview him and he's in prison and he's in the gym and trying to get strong, and there was something about that where the belief of him being like, I'm as strong as I can possibly be as a human, but I will never be as strong as Superman. So there was something about that where I was like, oh, I want to play Lex as though he is like physically as good as he can be. And it's still not anywhere near what Superman is.
That was a tiger in the cage moment, I remember, when that long shot happens at the beginning and comes around to Nick and he's pacing back and forth like a tiger in a cage. I felt like that was a real moment for Lex that you found.
And Rachel, what about you with Lois? Was there anything that you did sort of like physically that sort of made you feel just a bit more closer to her, like beyond your line reads, like the way you held yourself or the way she walks? Or...
Well, I put in a long 6 months in the gym with Paolo to get very, very strong. No, Lois wore flat shoes, which was very exciting for me.
And for me.
David insisted that I not be 1 centimeter taller than I needed to be. I think these characters get discovered physically when you put them in space with other characters, and so you can walk around your apartment however many different ways you want to and try on different versions of the clothes, but it's really not until you put the whole thing together when you have the hair and the makeup and the little details that you've added along the way, the little secret things that we have that we'll never tell any of you about. And then go toe to toe with Superman or Clark. I think that's where, it did help that our first scene together, we made out for like 4 hours and then shot the rest of it. So the physicality came in very quickly.
On screen, guys.
And we felt that, and we thoroughly enjoyed it.
One of the things about Rachel that was so impressive was when you see like Lois's apartment, like so much of that was, you know, the design of Beth Mickle, our production designer, who I've worked with on numerous films, and is fantastic. But it was also, you know, Rachel becoming involved in the set dressing, the books, where her, you know, articles were framed, you know, what she had around the house, the mess of it all. Same thing with her outfits. That you had outfits with, you know, many pockets so you could have all the stuff in. The way we had your pens that you were chewing on, so they're all chewed up on the, you know, on your desk. You know, she was so involved in creating this life that had depth around Lois in every aspect of the filmmaking and collaborating with the heads of department in a way that very few actors do. It was really cool.
So impressive. Those are the Easter eggs that we want to see for sure. Sadly, that's all we've got time for. So James, David, James, David, Rachel, Nick, Peter, thank you so very much for spending time with us. And don't forget, book your tickets. Superman is in cinemas July 11th. Make sure you see it IMAX on a big old screen. Tell a friend, tell a friend. Hashtag Superman, hashtag Nick.
Thank you guys so much. It really is meaningful. Thank you.